Let us now remember that we are in the holy presence of God and prepare ourselves for the opening prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Huwag kang mangamba, di ka nag-isa. Sasamahan kita saan man magpunta. Ika'y mahalaga sa aking mga mata, minamahal kita. Minamahal kita. Sa iyong pangalan, ikaw ay akin magpakailanman. Ako ang Panginoon mo at Diyos, tagapagligtas mo at tagatubos. Huwag kang mangamba, hindi ka nag-isa. Sasamahan kita saan man magpunta.
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the faculty, staff, and administrators of CEAP member schools all over the country. I am Mary Ann Cruz. I am the Deputy Executive Director of CEAP, and I will be your moderator for today. That was Wag Kang Mangamba. That was a music video from the Jesuit Communications. A very fitting message for us today, not to be afraid to take risks because God is with us in everything. So we would like to thank the Jesuit Communications headed by their executive director, Father Nono Alfonso S.J., for allowing us to use that music video as our opening prayer. So we do not have any copyright infringement. And speaking of Jesuits, we would also like to greet our friend, the president of Ateneo de Zamboanga, who used to be the regional trustee of CEAP Region 9, Father Carel San Juan. Happy birthday, Father Carel. And also, as we bring you this next webinar, we would like to thank the Private Education Assistance Committee, or PEA, for their support in our webinars. So as we very well know, this is the fourth of the first leg of the CEAP webinar series. Our first session was on school continuity planning. Then we had a session on the review of fees and online enrollment. Our third session last Tuesday was on legal matters affecting schools during the time of COVID. And this is the fourth of our webinar series. Today, we will have risk management and assessment in schools in the time of COVID-19. But before we proceed, let me give you a few reminders. First of all, as the talk is ongoing, we request you to post your questions at the comments section of this Facebook page during the talk so that we will ask them during the question and answer portion. Secondly, please be informed that you will receive the certificate of attendance only upon completion of the evaluation form. The link will be posted later during the question and answer portion, and it will be up only until 2 o'clock in the afternoon today. We encourage you to answer the evaluation form, and your certificate of attendance will be emailed to you within the next 2 days. Thank you. So we shall now proceed with the webinar. To give us this webinar entitled Risk Assessment and Management of Catholic Schools in the Time of COVID-19, please join me in welcoming the Financial Administrator of the Diocese of Cabanatuan, Father Jeffrey Alarilla.
Good morning. I am Father Jeffrey Alarilla of the Diocese of Cabanatuan, and this is the fourth of the CEAP webinar series. I was invited by the CEAP to share something about risk assessment and management. Perhaps some of us might not be familiar with the risk assessment and management. This might sound new to many of us. This is because risk assessment and management is usually used in business projects. But more and more people are beginning to discover that this could also be used in other fields like school management. A couple of months ago, Father Mike Veneracion, the chair of the CEAP Superintendent's Commission, invited me to assist our Catholic schools in the Diocese of Cabanatuan to come up with a risk assessment and management matrix for the schools during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have been doing this risk assessment and management for business projects for a long time. And now we are also doing this for our diocese, for our Catholic schools, and for our seminary where I am currently assigned. These are difficult, trying, and uncertain times. While we are now preparing for the start of the school year 2020-2021, we know that a lot of things can happen. There could be a COVID-19 outbreak in our schools, or a resurgence of COVID-19 in the locality where our schools are located, or a prolonged closure of schools. The government might default on ESC and other scholarship vouchers, or the students could be delayed in paying their bills, or there could be a significant decrease in the number of enrollees in our Catholic schools. Employees in critical positions may suddenly resign. There could be a delay in the distribution of learning materials, and the students might have low compliance to academic requirements. These and more are possibilities during the pandemic. Do we know the impact of these problems to our finances, to our operations, to our compliance to regulations, and even to the reputation of our schools? Have we made a plan on how to address these problems should they happen? Have we assigned point persons to take care of these problems? A lot of things can go wrong because risks are inherent in any plan. Since risks are inherent in any plan or project, it is best that we identify these risks early on so that we can avoid them, or if they are unavoidable, at least we can mitigate their impact. Today, I would like to introduce you to the risk assessment and management, and I hope that this could help you in managing your school during the COVID-19 pandemic. First, let us understand what is risk. Risk is defined as the chance that an outcome will differ from what is expected. In business, this means the actual gains of an investment may be different from the expected outcome. Applying this concept to school administration, this means that there is a chance that the actual outcome of our plans might turn out to be different from what we expected. Risks are therefore considered threats to the success of our projects. And what is risk management? Risk management means identifying and then responding to any risk that arises over the life cycle of a project to help the project remain on track and meet its goals. In the context of school management, risk management refers to the process of identifying things that could possibly go wrong and then responding appropriately to these risks so that threats to the success of our school year may be eliminated or at least minimized. This will ensure a greater chance of success. Let us go back to history and see how people used risk assessment and management. Around 3200 BC, in the valley of the Tigris-Euphrates, in the Mesopotamia civilization, which is now the modern-day Iraq, when people had to make important and risky decisions, they would ask for the advice of a group of people called a sifu. These people serve as consultants so that people could be guided in their decision-making process. In 431 BC, the ancient Greeks were already practicing risk analysis. The Greek historian Thucydides once said, "The worst thing that we could do is to rush into action before consequences have been properly debated." We are capable at the same time of taking risks and estimating them beforehand. During the 1600s, a French philosopher and mathematician by the name of Blaise Pascal presented an argument on the existence of God called the wager. According to him, humans bet with their lives that God either exists or does not. Using a process similar to risk assessment, Pascal argued that a reasonable person should live as though God exists and seek to believe in God. If God does not actually exist, such a person will have little to lose, whereas if God does exist, he stands to receive limitless gains and avoid endless losses. In the 1700s, in England, the precursor of a modern life insurance company made risk analysis in their businesses. During the 1900s, risk prediction was used in the criminal justice system of some countries. Specifically, they assessed the risk of granting paroles to convicted criminals and the odds of them complying with parole conditions before they were released. In the 1970s and 80s, risk and management was formally established as a scientific field to assist business people in managing their businesses. Today, risk assessment and management is widely used not only in businesses but also in other fields. We can think of several reasons why risk assessment and management is important. First, it makes us aware that there are inherent risks in our projects. we are made to realize that there are things that could possibly go wrong. Second, it improves planning because we create backup plans just in case the original plan does not work out well. We have plan B or even plan C just in case something goes wrong. Third, if we are able to identify risks early on, we can avoid them by improving our plans. In the event that the risks are unavoidable, we can at least mitigate their impact if we have risk assessment and management matrix. Fourth, if risks are identified and addressed well, the chance of success would be higher. Let us now proceed with the whole risk assessment and management matrix. The matrix is composed of 4 parts. The first part is risk identification. The second part is risk assessment. The third part is risk management. And the last part is the monitoring and review. The first part identifies and defines potential risks that may have a negative impact on the operation of our school. The second part evaluates the chances of likelihood and the consequences of the risks if they happen. The third part develops a plan to either avoid or to mitigate the impact of the risks. The last part follows up on both the risk and the implementation of the contingency plans. So the whole matrix includes risk identification, risk assessment, risk management, and monitoring and review. Risk identification. The risk identification table contains 4 columns. The first column is the risk ID. It is a reference number. We assign a number or a letter to each risk for proper identification. The second column in the table is the risk event. It refers to the specific occurrence that may have negative effects on the operation of the school. Now let's try to identify sample risks. Please note that risks may differ from school to school. The risks Catholic schools in Central Luzon face may be different from the risks faced by Catholic schools in the Bicol region, in Metro Manila, in Samar, or in Davao. Some of the risks that I am going to identify may be the same as or different from the risks your school faces. So please feel free to make your own list. Here are some of the risks that could happen. If we open our schools in August and ask our employees to start regularly reporting for work, a COVID-19 outbreak in the campus is a possibility. The closure of our schools could also be prolonged if the pandemic worsens in the next few weeks. There could also be a resurgence of COVID-19 in the place where the school is located. Due to limited resources, the government might default or might be delayed on ESC and other scholarship vouchers. The students might also fail to pay their bills on time because of financial difficulties. Since these are uncertain times, there could be a significant decrease in the number of enrollees. One or two or several of our employees might suddenly resign for various reasons. There could be a delay in the distribution of learning materials to students, and the compliance of students to academic requirements might be low. These are the risks that we can identify for now. I'm sure you have other risks in mind that you might want to include in your own risk assessment and management. The third column in the risk identification table indicates the time when a particular risk could happen. In the fourth column, we can find the factors or the potential causes of risks. Our risk identification table should look like this. Let's consider the risk of the COVID-19 outbreak in the campus. We'll assign number 1 as the risk ID. Next is we write the COVID-19 outbreak in the campus as our risk event. Under the time, we write any time from August 2020 to April 2021. This means that the risk could happen between August of this year to April of next year. You may write a different time depending on when you think this risk could happen. Then we'll write in the last column the different factors that could make the risk happen. In the case of COVID-19 outbreak in the campus, the factors include our failure to identify or monitor people with symptoms entering our campus, and our failure to implement precautionary measures like thermal scanning, foot bath, regular disinfection of facilities, and hand hygiene. Risk assessment. This part has 6 important assessments. The first is the immediate effect of the risk. The second is the risk rating. We will classify the risks based on likelihood and severity of impact. Let's use the probability and impact table to assess the rating of the risks. Probability and impact matrix. If there are several risks, this tool can help us prioritize which ones need our attention and resources most. The first column of the matrix indicates the probability ranging from almost certain on top to rare on the bottom. In between are likely, moderate, and unlikely. The top of the matrix signifies the impact from negligible on the left to severe on the right. In between are minor, moderate, and significant. We make our own assessment based on our situation. The individual boxes are colored. Light green means the risk is rated as minimum risk. Green means low risk. Yellow means moderate risk. Orange means high risk. And red means extreme risk. Now let us try to rate the sample risks that we are able to identify. Please note that some of these risks could have different ratings depending on your situation. First, COVID-19 outbreak in the campus. The chance of this risk happening is moderate and the impact is severe. Thus, the rating is high risk. Second, prolonged closure of schools. There is a moderate chance of this risk happening and the impact is significant. Thus, this risk is rated as high risk. Third, resurgence of COVID-19 in the locality. There is a moderate chance of this risk happening and the impact is significant. We rate this risk as high risk. Fourth, government defaults or is delayed on ESC and other scholarship vouchers. There is a likely chance of this happening and it will have a significant impact. We therefore rate it as high risk. Fifth, delayed payment of student bills. Both the chance of it happening and the impact are moderate. Thus, we rate it as moderate risk. Sixth, significant decrease in the number of enrollees. Just like in the delayed payment of student bills, both the chance of it happening and the impact are moderate. We likewise rate this as moderate risk. But for some of us, this might be rated as high risk. So it depends on our situation. Seventh, sudden resignation of employees in critical positions. The possibility of this is moderate and the impact is also moderate. Thus, we rate this as moderate risk. If the position of the employee is non-critical, the impact will be lower. 8. Delayed distribution of learning materials. The chance of this is unlikely since you must have been preparing them for quite some time and the impact is minor. We therefore rate this risk as low risk. Last, low compliance of students to academic requirements. This is likely to happen given our current situation, but the impact, I believe, may be minor because we can plan several interventions. We therefore rate this risk as low risk. In the 9 risks that we identified, 4 are rated as high risks, 3 are rated as moderate risks, and 2 are rated as low risks. Now let's go back to our assessment. After rating the risks, we will identify the consequence of the risk on the finances of the school. The consequences could be a reduced or lost income or additional expenses for the school. The second consequence is on the operations of the school. The risk could involve the operation of a particular department or it could involve several departments, or the operation of the whole school will be affected. The third consequence is on the regulations. This means our school's compliance to all regulations issued by the different government offices like CHED, DepEd, DOLE, DOH, local government, or the Office of the Superintendent. The fourth possible consequence is on the reputation of the school. The risk could damage the reputation of our school, or it may shake the confidence of stakeholders like the students, parents, employees, and benefactors. The risk assessment table should look like this. The immediate impact of COVID-19 outbreak is suspension of school operation. The risk rating is high. The consequence on the school finances are both reduced income and additional costs. The whole school will stop operating and only a skeleton workforce will remain. For the consequence of the COVID-19 outbreak on the regulations, well, it could mean a possible reminder or perhaps a reprimand from authorities because of our failure to implement anti-COVID-19 measures. The outbreak could also have a negative impact on the reputation of our school. It means bad PR, and the confidence level of the stakeholders will be negatively affected. Let's proceed with the third part of the risk assessment and management matrix called risk management. This part is subdivided into 4 parts. The first is the response. What is our response to the risk? It will either be to avoid, or if the risk is unavoidable, to mitigate the impact. Avoidance, if possible, should be our first response. The second part contains our contingency plans or planned actions. We normally prepare for a plan B or a second plan. But my suggestion is, if it is possible, prepare for multiple plans. If plan B doesn't work out, we should have plan C or plan D and so on. The third part is the trigger. If the risk happens, what will trigger the implementation of the contingency plans? The last part of the risk management names the person or the point person who will be in charge of implementing the contingency plans. As much as possible, this person should not be the school president or school director, although there are instances when it is only the president or school director who would implement the contingency plans. A middle manager like the principal, the dean, the HR director, the VP for finance or treasurer should be assigned instead of the president or the school director. Now let's do the third table, which is the risk management matrix. Our response to the COVID-19 outbreak in the campus is both avoidance and mitigation. We can avoid an outbreak in our campus if we are to strictly implement DOH's recommended measures like thermal scanning, foot bath, and regular disinfection of facilities. But in the event that despite our implementation of precautionary measures, there is still an outbreak in the campus, what we can do is mitigate its impact. First, we have to suspend the school operation immediately. Second, we disinfect all facilities as soon as possible. Third, after some time, let us ask the authorities to certify that we have already disinfected the school facilities. And lastly, let's try to counter possible bad PR. Once there is an outbreak in our campus, it will create a bad image for our school, and this is bad for us because the confidence level of stakeholders will go down. So what can we do is to post pictures on social media or announce at our parish masses that our school facilities are being disinfected and that we are implementing stricter measures so that the same will not happen again. What will trigger the activation of our contingency plans is when there are at least 2 personnel in the same department who get infected by the COVID-19. Or you might want to raise the threshold to 3 or 4. Or you may set your own threshold upon consultation with health authorities. And who do we assign as the person in charge? The school doctor or nurse or whoever is in charge of health in our schools. The fourth part of the risk assessment and management matrix is the monitoring and review. And this is the easiest part. This part is subdivided into 3 parts. We have the method, which refers to the modes for monitoring the implementation of our contingency plans. This could be an ocular inspection, an inventory, or a written report. This means the person in charge of the contingency plans may be asked to submit a written report to the school president or director as part of the monitoring the implementation. The second part is the progress and compliance. This refers to the progress of the implementation. We can write 50% complete or 75% complete and so on, depending on the progress at the time the monitoring and review was done. We can also indicate our remarks like the difficulty encountered in the implementation. The last part is the status. This refers to the update on the contingency plans. We can write ongoing, implemented, or even unimplemented. This is how the monitoring and review table will look like. In the method column, we can write the mode of reporting that we prefer on the implementation of the contingency plans for the outbreak of COVID-19 in the campus. We can require a written report from the school doctor, nurse, or anyone who is in charge of the health of the students and employees. An ocular inspection can also be done to make sure that school facilities have been disinfected and that strict precautionary measures have been put in place. Under the progress and compliance column, we can write 75% complete, and we can include our comments like the difficulty that we experienced in countering the negative PR brought about by the outbreak. In the last column, we can write ongoing if the implementation of the contingency plans has not yet been completed. So it will be easy for you to make your own risk assessment and management matrix. Let me share with you what we did in our schools. This is originally written in an Excel file. An Excel file can contain all 4 parts of the whole matrix. We are finished discussing the first sample risk, and this is how it can look like outside the table. Risk identification, risk assessment, risk management, monitoring and review. Let's proceed with the second sample risk. The second sample risk is the prolonged closure of schools. Between August to December of this year, or until a vaccine is not available, some schools may remain closed. The main factor for this is the possible worsening of the pandemic. There are other possible factors that we can write here, like the inadequacy of our preparation, or I am not sure if it is possible, the government might suspend the opening of all schools, both public and private, until a vaccine is available. Next is risk assessment. The immediate impact of this risk is the schools will remain closed. The rating is high risk. This risk will have serious consequences on the finances of the school. This means there is no income, and the succeeding months will entail additional expenses. Sadly, this can drain our bank accounts if we do not have enough savings or other sources of funds. I will not be surprised if some small schools will not survive few more months without income or financial assistance. If the school can survive this risk, then it will not have any effect on its reputation. But if it cannot, then the reputation of the school will be damaged. For our risk management, our response is to mitigate or cushion the impact since we cannot avoid it. The order to suspend or stop the opening of schools is beyond our power. To mitigate the impact, we can do the following. Number 1, adjust the school calendar. Number 2, use contingency or buffer fund if you have any. Number 3, borrow money from other schools or from the office of the school or Catholic school superintendent or ask assistance from the diocese. Number 4, implement no work, no pay policy. Retrenchment is actually an option, but I believe this is a very painful decision. If you are thinking of other ways for the school to earn, you can include them in your contingency plans. What will trigger these contingency plans is an order from the government to suspend the opening of schools because of the pandemic or because the pandemic has worsened. The point person for this is the school president or school director, since this involves the operation of the whole school. In the monitoring and review, we can ask for a written report from the principal who will adjust the school calendar, from the treasurer who will identify or look for more funds, and for the HR director who will implement the no work, no pay policy. The third sample risk is the resurgence of COVID-19 in the locality where our school is located. This could happen anytime. As the government gradually relaxes lockdowns and community quarantines, we are still uncertain of what will happen next. There are several factors why there could be a resurgence of COVID-19 in our place. Number one, COVID-19 positive people from outside entering our locality undetected. Another reason is our locality hasn't flattened the curve or the virus hasn't completely been eliminated. For our risk assessment, the immediate impact of the COVID-19 resurgence in our locality is a suspension of school operation. And the risk rating is high risk because not only is this possible, but the impact could also be serious. The consequence to our finances is additional expense. The school calendar may be adjusted and it will entail additional expenses while having zero income. Employees will not physically report for work and the work from home policy will be implemented. The delivery of learning materials to students will also be affected, and this will necessitate an adjustment of school calendar. For our risk management, our response is only to mitigate the impact since the resurgence of COVID-19 in the locality is beyond our control. To mitigate the impact, we can do the following. Suspend the school operation immediately. Let us not force our employees to physically report for work. And then, adjust your school calendar. Design a flexible school calendar so that it is easy to adjust. Since there might be no income, but necessary expenses continue, like what happened in the first months of the pandemic, use your contingency or buffer fund. The new normal necessitates setting aside contingency or buffer fund. I know this is very difficult for small schools that do not have savings or surplus. If there is no contingency or buffer fund, borrow money from other schools in your diocese, or from the Office of School Superintendent, or from the diocese if your diocese has a lot of money. And then implement no work, no pay policy. Again, retrenchment is a very painful option. But the school has to survive, and we are sometimes left with no other choice. What will trigger the contingency plans is a prolonged lockdown or community quarantine. The person responsible is the president or school director, since this involves the whole school. If the risk involves a particular department, assign somebody else and do not unnecessarily burden the president or school director. For the monitoring and review, a written report from the principal will adjust the school calendar, and from the treasurer who will adjust the budget and look for other sources of funds may be required. Our next sample risk is when the government defaults or when the government is delayed on ESC and other scholarship vouchers. This could happen in January and May 2021 during the end of each semester. One of the factors why this could happen is the limitation of government funds. Remember that the government has to prioritize the ayuda given to the poor. This might have a negative impact on the budget originally allocated for other programs. For our risk assessment, the immediate impact is the insufficiency of school sources of funds. The risk rating is high because of its consequences. There could be a budget deficit, especially if a large chunk of our budget would come from government subsidies. And then the finance department will have to look for other sources of funds. For the risk management, we can avoid and mitigate the impact. While we cannot stop the government from defaulting, what we can avoid is the painful consequences to our finances. There are a couple of things that we can do. If possible, design your budget so that it is not too much dependent on government subsidies. kung pwede lang po. And then do not automatically deduct the subsidy from the fees that the students have to pay. What we should do is collect the whole amount of fees from the students, and when the government subsidies come in, return the same amount to the students. This way, we are not too much dependent on the subsidies of the government. For the monitoring and review, require a written report from the treasurer and then monitor the progress, compliance, and status of the implementation of contingency plans. The fifth sample risk is when the students are delayed in paying their bills. 1 or 2 months after the school opened, we will already have an idea if some of our students will not be able to pay on time. You can indicate here any month depending on the schedule of payment in your school. There are several factors that may affect the timely payment of student bills. Some parents might have lost their job because the company where they are working closed down. Some parents might not be earning enough because of economic recession. Parents who are working abroad might fail to send enough money because of economic difficulties. The brunt of the economic recession will be felt, I believe, in the coming months. A lot of companies will go bankrupt and a lot of employees will lose their jobs. I believe we haven't seen the worst of the economic effect of the pandemic, and we should be prepared for the worst. For a risk assessment, we expect that the immediate impact of the delay in the payment of student bills is insufficiency of budget to sustain the operation of the school. Depending on the financial status of your school, the risk rating could either be moderate or high. The delay in payment could mean a budget deficit for the school, and then the finance department will be forced to once again look for other sources of funds. For risk management, our response to the delayed payment of the student bills is to mitigate the impact. And we can have several contingency plans. Number 1, adjust the budget and reduce operational expenses. Number 2, use contingency or buffer fund. Number 3, borrow money from other schools or from the office of the superintendent or from the diocese. The trigger for the contingency plans is when there is not enough collection by the end of the midterm or quarterly exams. Again, you can adjust this date depending on your policy. The person responsible is the treasurer. For the monitoring and review, the treasurer may be asked to submit a written report on the implementation of the contingency plans. The sixth sample risk is a significant decrease in the number of enrollees. We would know this by the months of August and September, when enrollment would already be closed for most schools. There are different factors why there to be a decrease in the number of enrollees. Number 1, or first, primarily it could be due to financial difficulties brought about by the pandemic. Second, some parents might also refuse to enroll their children this coming school year because they do not believe in the alternative methods of learning. Third, other schools might be offering alternative programs better than what we can offer. This is the reason why we need to consult the parents when designing our programs. We need to know their concerns and whether our plans are acceptable to them. For the risk assessment, the immediate impact is fewer students. Our school will have less students this coming school year. The rating for this risk could either be moderate or high, depending on your situation. Should this risk happen, the consequence to our finances is reduced income. For our operations, this would mean all departments will have to reduce their proposed budget. The finance department might have to look for other sources of funds to sustain the operation of the school. The significant decrease in the number of enrollees will affect the reputation of the school. People will begin to wonder why the number of our students is decreasing. This will create wild speculations, and this will affect how people look at our school. Stakeholders like students, parents, employees, and even benefactors might lose confidence in our school. We have to come up with an effective risk management in order to arrest the possible decline in the number of enrollees. Our responses to the risk is both avoidance and mitigation. We can try to avoid the possible decrease of enrollees by doing the following. 1. Campaign both for retention of old students and recruitment of new ones. Sometimes, we focus our campaign only on the recruitment of new students. We overlook the possibility that the old students could also decide to transfer to other schools and we lose them. Let us make sure that the old students or the old-timers are happy and satisfied with our school so that we will not or they will not transfer to another school. Ask your class advisors to contact your students and their parents. Kumustahin sila and ask them if they will continue their studies in our schools. Make sure their questions and concerns are properly addressed. Just like in business, make sure you retain your clients or customers before you recruit new ones, because it is much easier to retain an old student than to recruit a new one. 2. Recruit new students by using effective marketing strategies. We can use branding or rebranding as a strategy. If our school is a parochial school, let's brand it or project it as a parish community school. Let us give the impression that our school is the best school for Catholics in our parish. But if this is no longer effective, we should try to come up with other marketing strategies. You might also want to use a differentiation strategy. What makes our school different from other schools in the locality? Let us highlight the advantages which our school could offer. Another strategy is to conduct a market research. I bet most of our schools do not or has never conducted a market research. In business, market research means gathering information about consumers' needs and preferences. Remember that just like in business, when we sell a product, when we promote our school, we are promoting a product. In our case, it is Catholic education. Since we are marketing a product, we should know the needs and preferences of our client. In the case of schools, the clients are both the students and the parents. In most cases, it is the parents who have a say where the kids would study. Let us focus our campaign not only on attracting the students, but also on attracting the parents. Let us make a survey among parents in the parish. Discover why some Catholic parents prefer to enroll their children to non-Catholic schools or other private schools over our Catholic schools. 3. Involve the parish community in the school programs. The parish priest in the locality is an important ally. He can be a very effective endorser of our Catholic schools because a lot of people listen to him. Involve the parish officers from the Parish Pastoral Council down to the Barangay Pastoral Council or BEC. Make them understand that as parish leaders, they too are stakeholders in our Catholic schools. Perhaps if they feel they are involved, they might support our Catholic school either by sending their kids to our school or by promoting it. Another strategy that might help us is recruiting benefactors who may be willing to spend for the Catholic education of poor parishioners. Marketing strategies are not only for businesses. It is about time that we also use effective marketing strategies to promote our schools. Now, if the number of enrollees is still significantly decreased despite our different marketing strategies, we should come up with contingency plans to mitigate the impact. We can have several plans that might help us. 1. Revise the annual budget and base it on the actual number of students. When we do our budget, the expected number of students should be one of the most important considerations. The budget should be adjustable. For example, our target number of enrollees for this school year is 1,500. We should prepare a budget not only based on 1,500. We must have several budgets based on different numbers of students. Let's prepare a budget for 1,400 or 1,300 so that if the number of students is below our target of 1,500 students, we could easily adjust the budget. And then prepare another budget based on more than 1,500 students, let's say 1,600 or 1,800 or 2,000. This will allow us to easily adjust our annual budget. Number 2, since there is a decrease in the number of enrollees, what we can do is minimize our expenses. Number 3, we can also maximize the use of our facilities. What will trigger our contingency plans is when the actual number of enrollees is way below our projection. The persons responsible for this are the admissions director, the principal, the director, the marketing officer, if you have one. For monitoring and review, require a written report from the admissions director, the principal, and the treasurer. The 7th sample risk is the sudden resignation of employees in critical positions. And this could happen anytime during the school year. If the employee resigns before the start of the school year, then we will still have ample time to hire his or her replacement. And if the employee is not occupying a crucial position in our school, well, that will not be a big problem for us. There are several factors why an employee would resign. One is extreme fear of contracting COVID-19. 2 is dissatisfaction with work. 3, personal problems. For risk assessment, the immediate impact is less workforce. The risk rating will depend much on how critical the position is. For the finances, the resignation could mean reduced expenses while we are looking for the replacement. For the operations, the consequences are reduced workforce, instability, especially if the position is very critical, and the HR department will have to hire as soon as possible. For the reputation of the school, a very problematic resignation could cause a bad reputation for our school because some employees could be demoralized. Kaya nga, as much as possible, we make all resignations as amicable as possible. For risk management, our responses is both to avoid and to mitigate the impact. In order to avoid a sudden resignation, make sure employees are okay, especially during this time of the pandemic. We can ask them how they are from time to time so they could feel that we care for them. For our mitigation plan, we can have the following. Prepare succession plan. This means identifying and developing employees who could easily take over a vacant position should the need arise. Number 2 is prepare a hiring plan. Part of our hiring plan is keeping the profiles and contact details of previous applicants to vacant positions. If there is a sudden resignation, we can immediately contact previous qualified applicants if they are still available. Number 3, train employees to learn each other's assignments. Before I became a priest, I worked in the central office of a bank in Makati. Aside from our own assignments in the company or in the department, we were trained to assume each other's assignment from time to time. Initially, I was wondering why we had to learn each other's assignment. But when one of my colleagues in the department went on leave, the company did not hire a temporary replacement. What our boss did was assign some of us to multitask. That's when I realized that we had to learn each other's work so that we could easily take over in case of an absence, leave, or sudden resignation. And we could do this also in our schools. We could train employees of the same department or office to familiarize themselves with each other's work so that in case there is a sudden resignation, there will be no major disruption in the office. What will trigger the contingency plans is when the HR office receives the irrevocable resignation letter of an employee. And the person responsible for the implementation of the plans is the HR director. For the monitoring and review, the HR will be asked to submit a written report. The 8th sample risk is the delayed distribution of learning materials to the students. By the end of September of this year, the learning materials should have been distributed to all our students. Factors that could cause the delay include the delayed submission of learning materials by the teachers who are supposed to make them, delayed reproduction of learning materials, and the difficulty in distributing the learning materials, especially if the number of students in our school is relatively big. For the risk assessment, the impact or the immediate impact is delayed learning on the part of the students. For the consequences, if the arrangement is for the parents to pick up from school the learning materials, if they fail to get them and we decide to deliver them instead to their homes, this will entail additional expenses for the school. We can charge the students for delivery fees. Second, the consequence to the operation of the school is adjustment of calendar. For the reputation of the school, if the school is the one at fault for the delayed distribution of learning materials, this will negatively affect the image of our school. Students and parents might think that the school is inefficient. For the risk management, the responses are to avoid and mitigate the impact. In order to avoid the delay in the distribution of learning materials, we can 1. Strictly monitor the submission of learning materials. Follow up from time to time to ensure the timely submission. 2. Other school employees may assist in the reproduction or photocopying and delivery of learning materials. One way we could mitigate a possible delay is, if it is possible, to just send the learning materials via the internet. This, however, could be a problem for those who do not have internet connection. The trigger for our contingency plans is when some students haven't picked up or received their learning materials by the end of September 2020. The person responsible for the contingency plans is the principal. For the monitoring and review, we can require a written report from the principal. The last sample risk is the low compliance of students to academic requirements. This could be evident before the midterm or quarterly exams when all requirements are supposed to be submitted. There are several factors why this could happen. One is failing to receive learning materials on time. 2 is difficulty in understanding the learning materials. We hope that the teachers will be very considerate in the requirements considering the situation of many of our students today. 3. Failure of parents to assist their children. Please note that in most cases, this is the first time that the burden of teaching will be shared with the parents. Well, this is good. While the sharing is good, the problem is not all students have parents or grandparents to assist them in their studies at home. Please take this reality into consideration when you design the learning materials and the requirements. 4 is failure to promote students' compliance or monitor students' compliance to learning materials. For the risk assessment, the immediate impact is the adjustment of school calendar. The rating is relatively low. For the consequences, in the finances, these might require additional expenses for the internet or communication allowance of some teachers who will connect with their students to monitor their compliance. For the operations, this could mean the academic department will make some adjustments to the school calendar to accommodate late submission of requirements. For our risk management, our responses are to avoid and to mitigate the impact. We can avoid the risk by doing the following. Check the learning materials to ensure that they are easy to understand. Please remember that some of our students do not have their parents with them at home, so they might not have anyone to assist them in their studies. Number 2, do not ask for difficult requirements. Let us be realistic in our requirements and be considerate with the situation of our students today. Number 3, strictly monitor the submission of academic requirements and follow up if necessary. Aside from these sample risks, I am sure you can think of a lot more depending on your school's situation. Just remember that our risk assessment and management matrix should have 4 important parts. First is the risk identification, which indicates the risk ID, risk event, time, and factors. Second is the risk assessment, which contains the immediate impact, risk rating, finances, operations, compliance to regulations, and reputations. Third is the risk management, where we write our response, contingency plans, which are either avoidance or mitigation, trigger, and person responsible. And the last part shows the method, progress, and compliance, and status. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will find the risk assessment and management helpful in managing your schools during the time of pandemic. We shall have our question and answer in a short while. And please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the question and answer portion of this webinar. Before we proceed, may I just remind you once again that you will receive your certificate of attendance only upon completion of the evaluation form. The link will be posted later at the comment section of the page. It will be pinned, so please watch for it. And it will be available until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you will have time to fill it out and submit it via our Google documents. Okay, so before we start, you have been asking questions on the comment section. If you can have a copy of the presentation. For your information, all the PowerPoint presentations are uploaded at the CEAP website. So that's www.ceap.org.ph. When you click on the folder, you will find there the entire materials for the school continuity plan and all the PowerPoint presentations in relation to the webinars that were given with the school continuity plan matrix. Okay, so Father Jeff will give us the PowerPoint presentation that he used. Kasi Father Jeff, napaka-elegant daw ng iyong design, no? May mga
Thank you, ma'am.
nag-comment sa comment section natin, ano? So, yun. So, please go to our website. We will also save the video in the CEAP Facebook page so you can review the video. And it is also going to be uploaded at the CEAP YouTube channel. Okay, so you can access our materials. Please do share them to those schools that you think will need all these materials. Okay, Father, ready ka na ba to answer? Napaka-comprehensive
Yes, ma'am.
nung ano mo, no? Napaka-comprehensive nung iyong mga presentation. So,
Thank you po. Thank you.
First question, no? Ang tinanong kasi dito, Father, who will be responsible in initializing this risk assessment? Who should prepare the risk assessment and management matrix? Can it be the admin only? Will they have to mobilize all the employees? How do you do it initially? This is the question from Digna Delfino. So who should prepare the risk assessment and management matrix?
Hi, good morning, Ma'am Digna. May mga schools po, ma'am, na merong learning continuity plan, continuity team, no? Ito po yung mga different heads or representatives ng mga different departments sa isang school, no? May representatives sila from the finance, from the operations, from the health department, academics, HR, and other departments, no? Hindi ito dapat lang burden ng school president o ng school head or ng director. No? Dapat ay involved dito sana yung mga middle managers niya. No? Kasi they are in the best position to identify some risks based on their experience. And they will be the ones to implement this. They will help us in the implementation. So the best persons here are not just the head, but the not just the school head, but the different heads of the different departments. No? Yung iba daw ay may representatives from parents, maganda rin po yun, ma'am. No? I recommend na yung mga middle managers ay maging involved kasi po in management, ito po kasi yung mga parang frontliners ng school natin, no? Yung mga different heads po heads ng different departments, no? Sila po yung nakakaramdam, nakakarinig at saka nakakaintindi ng situation, no? And these are the partners ng school president po, no? Pag po tayo ay middle manager, we should remember na when we present a concern or a problem to our school head or school president, we also offer solutions para pamilian at mag-decide yung president. Do not come to the president or the head of the school with problems or concerns without offering possible solutions. Kasi katuwang po itong mga middle managers po natin. Kaya po, I would strongly suggest to involve not just the school head, but the heads of the different departments po and offices sa isang school.
And then, Father, you should not go to your school head without solution. No? So kung nagka-problema ka, mag-suggest ka ng solution.
Yes,
and so
ma'am.
for approval na lang yun. Father, follow up lang dito sa first question. You said something about dapat hindi yung school head ang maging ang dapat maging in charge dito sa risk assessment and management. Bakit
Yes.
po?
Yes, ma'am. Kasi po maraming iniisip ang school head, no? Yung risk assessment and management is just one of the many concerns ng isang
Bagay.
president or the head ng school, no? Kailangan lagi siya doon sa taas, nakikita lang niya. Pag bumaba kasi siya and then he or she micromanages, magkakaproblema po doon because mahihirap siya mag-multitasking pag may concerns na dumating.
Oo. So bagay dun sa ating school continuity plan, sinulat natin doon na mag-form ng isang school continuity team. No?
Yes.
So more or less, sila na rin yon yung gagawa
Yes,
nitong
ma'am.
mga assessment na to.
Mas mainam po sila din, ma'am.
In your experience, sino ang pinaka most likely na magandang ilagay to head this risk management and assessment? Meron kang suggestions kanina, several suggestions. But who do you think, in your personal opinion, is the best person to put there?
Actually, ma'am, pwede po dito mag-head o mag-chair ng committee yung president. No? Basta make sure the heads of the different departments are involved. Na-mention nga po kanina, kung in charge sa health po ng students and our personnel or head ng finance po, head po ng HR, hindi po sila yung pinaka-chairman. No? Yung president pa rin po bandang huli because he makes the final decision.
Okay. Sige, let's move on to the next question. Kanina, Father, you pointed a lot on the decline of funds because of the decrease in enrollment, the delay in subsidies. The second question is, do you have suggestions on how some schools can earn additional income? Kasi nag-decline yung enrollment, no? So during this incoming school year, considering the reality that students will be staying at home, ano kaya ang pwedeng additional income ng mga schools during this time?
So I presume, ma'am, the situation would be pumapasok pa rin o nag-report pa rin, nagtatrabaho yung ating mga personnel, yung ating human resources, and then empty ang ating mga classrooms because the students will be staying at home. We have to be very creative how to maximize our human resources, all our resources ng school natin, because I'm sure bababa yung income ng lahat ng schools ngayon. So we have to be creative and look for other ways that we could explore on how to earn extra income. I have several suggestions here, which our listeners might want to consider. But please make sure you consult experts like your lawyer and then your accountant, and then kung meron kayong mga sympathetic na mga businessman managers sa area ninyo. Number one is, I would suggest that you expand your canteen operation online. Yung canteen
online
natin,
canteen.
Yes, ma'am. No? So that parang ma-maximize natin yung canteen natin kasi syempre may produkto tayo dyan and then we also have our personnel na sumusweldo din dyan. So we might as well maximize it. Since hindi naman papasok ang mga estudyante, we should have a very strong presence online. So ililink natin dun sa ating Facebook account ng school so that our friends sa Facebook, like yung students, yung families nila, and then alumni, and then other friends would be aware of what we could offer, no, as a canteen, no? Like cooked food perhaps, or ready-to-eat food. Nagluluto naman talaga sila since maraming mga families ngayon ay they try to avoid going out of their homes. So pwede silang umorder dyan, or even
So
yung
kasabay
mga...
yan ng learning plans, no? Kasabay ng learning
Yes,
plans, meron ng recess.
Yes, so yung mga merienda, ganyan, pwede din pa-deliver po yan, ma'am. And then, pwede din mga toiletries or other needs like school supplies po, no? Anything na po pwede. I don't know how viable this is, no? Pero baka halimbawa po when your a canteen personnel would go to the market to purchase goods, baka pwedeng umorder at magpasabay din yung iba through online, no? And then, of course, pwedeng i-charge sila sa extra charge for delivery fees.
Naku, may digital taxation pa naman na ngayon, di ba? Meron na.
Yes, ma'am. That's why we have to consult our accountant po. No?
Our accountant, yeah.
Second po, no? Depending on our situation po, yung school po could organize online tutorial services. No? Since pumapasok naman yung teachers natin, or even if nasa sa bahay po sila, we could maximize yung kanilang services. Kung may mga magaling sa English, Math, Science, and other subjects, then we could offer these tutorial services as a school. And then, sinong target natin dito? No? Hindi lang yung students ng ating schools, kundi yung students ng mga neighboring schools or even outside yung ating locality, since this will be done online. No? Remember, may mga schools which are not really very prepared for the new normal. No? Kaya, mas malamang may mga students sila na mahihirapan. So, baka pwede mag-link sila sa atin and we could offer them online tutorial services. So this is additional income po para sa ating mga teachers, personnel, and saka po sa school. No? The third suggestion ko po is kung meron kayong mga school services na ginagamit like van or bus or kung ano pa man po ang inyong mga sasakyan dyan, service ng school, since wala naman po mga estudyante, ang personnel hindi masyadong gagamitin yan, why don't you consider renting them out? No? Remember po, during the quarantine period, yung mga employees ng mga companies ay required to provide services, mga sasakyan po sa kanilang employees para ihatid sila at saka sunduin. Since this is just a temporary arrangement, instead of the companies buying new cars or new services para sa mga employees nila, why not rent out our school services para mapakinabangan natin yung kita, and then yung ating mga drivers din ay may extra income. Also, if your school is huge, malaki ang ground po ninyo, you might consider planting vegetables for extra income. No? Maliit lang po yung kailangan natin para pondohan ang gardening, ng vegetables po. No? At saka high yield po yan, at saka malaki din po ang may tutulong sa atin. Mabilis po magbunga ang mga gulay na ating itatanim. Another suggestion that you might want to explore is, if your school, your campus has a huge parking spaces, and your school is located near establishments, commercial establishments, na busy establishments like kung may McDonald's dyan or Jollibee dyan, or may bangko dyan, you might want to consider renting out your parking spaces on a temporary basis. Let's say for a few months. So I'm sure makakatulong din po yung income na yan. Also, yung facilities po kasi natin sa ating schools, yung mga classrooms natin, auditorium, covered courts, big halls, ay sayang po yan. Nandyan po yan, we might as well maximize them, no, by renting them out as storage facilities, no, for the merchandise of commercial establishments near your area. So bilang bodega, pwede po yan na i-maximize po natin. Kasi very safe po dyan, secure. So yan naman yung atin pong advantage. No? Sino po ang pwede nating, kanino natin pwedeng i-offer ito? No? We could first ask the families, kung may mga pamilya na may commercial establishments yung ating students or our alumni, this is one way of helping our school. So natulungan din sila, and then kumita din tayo. And then my last suggestion is, this is only for schools located sa mga agricultural areas, no? With the help, assistance, and advice of a good businessman, well, the school, baka lang naman po pwede, they might engage in, ano po sila, mag-stock ng, they could buy palay and then stock palay. Kasi sayang po yung facilities natin eh. Ang lalaki po, either we rent them out or tayo mismo, we maximize them and then sell the palay pag medyo mataas na po ang presyo. Again, no, please do not do this kapag wala po kayong advice or assistance ng inyong experts like your lawyers and accountants and mga businessmen po na tutulong po sa atin. Kasi po baka malugi pa tayo. Kasi hindi naman po natin yung expertise yan. So we will need their expert assistance.
Expert assistance. So ano yan, Father? Canteen, tapos
canteen.
yung mga pabili sa market, parking lot, bodega,
online tutorial services, garden, vegetable garden, yung ating cars could be rent out, and then yung facilities po natin could also be rent out. I'm sure madami pang maiisip. We just have to be very creative. No? Yun naman sana yung ating maging mindset po, ma'am. During this time of the pandemic, no? This is a crisis. Problemado tayo lahat, but this should also bring out the best in each one of us, no? Para maging mas creative tayo. I'm sure meron po kayong maiisip bukod dito sa 7 bagay na aking nabanggit.
Oo, sa bagay, Father, yung sa canteen, di ba? May mga paboritong pagkain ng mga estudyante natin sa canteen at nami-miss nila yon. So, at hindi lang yung mga estudyante natin, kahit yung mga alumni natin, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Gusto nila yung mga pagkain na yon.
Yes, ma'am. Paborito na nila yan. Kilala na. Tsaka, ma'am, I think the advantage of yung canteen po natin is mayroon ng market po yan eh. Meron ng kilala na pwedeng bumili. And then, mataas, may confidence sa store, sa canteen natin, yung mga alumni natin, parents, and then students.
So, kilala na nila yun eh.
Yes, ma'am. We might as well maximize po natin yung kanilang kilalang-kilala, they can trust, pwede magpabili, na alam nila na hindi po sila lolokohin, ma'am.
Lolokohin. Oo nga, Father. No? Very nice idea. So, yung mga nanonood, you might want to share in the comment section what other creative ideas can we do during this time of the pandemic so that we can have additional income during the school year. Oh, Father, speaking of money pa rin, the third question siguro, how much should the emergency fund of the schools be? Gaano ba talaga? Ano ba yung level ng fund na parang pwede siya talaga na makaka-address ng mga emergency situations? So, emergency fund.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Yung new normal natin, having experienced this lockdown, quarantine, and the pandemic, our new normal would require us to really set aside a certain amount of money for our emergency fund. Otherwise, we will not be able to survive. We know how difficult it is. No? So if we have extra money, or the school has extra money, we should set aside. There's no standard for this, no standard amount. But typically, I would suggest yung 3 to 6 months worth of cash requirements as your emergency fund. So tuusin po natin yung ating average po na monthly cash requirements, and then 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months po. No? Sa amin po kasi, ma'am, sa aming diocese, simula po ngayon, I recommended for all parishes, at least for the parishes, na magkaroon ng 6 months worth of monthly cash requirements. I think this is also the suggestion of our school superintendent sa mga schools po namin dito. At least simula ngayon, at any given time, we should have this amount of 3 or 6 months worth of cash requirements as our emergency fund.
Okay, so 3 to 6 months of operational fund, yun ang dapat na emergency fund natin. Sige, there are other questions here from Emmanuel Cañares. What is the ideal size of the school clinic? Should there be another clinic to cater to special cases? What if a student was able to enter the school premises, but later on the temperature rises? What could be the possible intervention for this? So this is assuming may face-to-face na, no? So I guess ganun yung question ni Mr. Emmanuel Cañares.
Ma'am, I think the question is better addressed to a doctor, a school doctor. Ayoko po
Okay.
pangunahan kasi very technical po yan eh. Baka mayroon pong requirements ang Department of Health na kung meron separate room, no? For now, I do not know. Hindi po ako
Okay.
expert dito sa
I-check
bahagi
na lang
sa
natin yung
health.
DOH.
Yeah, but
Okay.
make sure po ma'am, lagi nagtatanong tayo sa local authorities at saka sa
Expert.
doktor. No? Pache-check din po natin yung ating mga schools. They could give us clearance and certification that we are ready and that we are compliant to the requirements of the health department.
Oo, sabi nga ni Father Elmer, yung ating school, yung ating CAP president, no, when he presented the school continuity planning, we have to constantly communicate with the local government and with the other government agencies that are in charge of all these, of a particular aspect that we are concerned with, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So the
Since
the team.
this concerns a lot of technical or legal implications, wag po tayong, let's not decide on our own, no? Let's always consult.
Wag mahihiyang magtanong.
Yes. Lagi po magtatanong, wala namang pong masama doon, no? Just make sure na we cannot just say alam ko nang gagawin ko, alam ko na lahat ito at ito ang tama, no? We could always ask kung wala man po tayong doktor sa school natin, at least yung local po na health officials sa ating locality.
Okay. So dapat talaga magtatanong tayo, hindi natin alam lahat.
Yes,
okay. Ito Father, from Ireneo Quejada, not all schools adopt contingency planning. How can we approach or lessen vulnerabilities and risks when there is no contingency planning that might even endanger sustainability pagka wala silang contingency planning? Anong masasabi niyo?
Una po, having experienced this pandemic and all the risks that we mentioned, and these are all possibilities, I think it would be very irresponsible not to have contingency plans this time. Because if we do not prepare contingency plans, that means nakikipagsapalaran tayo. No? We cannot afford to engage in that. No? Indeed, we cannot afford to be irresponsible at this time. So we can encourage schools to come up with contingency plans by just asking them, no, look at what happened to us, no, in the past few months. No. If this would happen again, what would be our plan? Alam po natin, no, this pandemic has caused a lot of troubles for schools. No. Alam natin maraming hindi natuloy, like graduation, in the finances, no, even in our human resources. Ang dami po niya. No? So we cannot but prepare a contingency plan. Now we are giving you this webinar to give you an idea on how to do your own, no? And then we're giving you a template na pwede naman po nila ma'am na gayahin, no? So they could recommend, no? Kung wala pa, if they are not the head of the school, yung mga nakikinig, and they want this, perhaps they could show or explain this to their principal or director, and then
papanood na lang nila itong video mo sa kanila.
Yes, ma'am. And since I will also be sending yung pong summary ng lahat ng risks at saka yung mga parts niya, yung 4 tables niya na risk identification, risk assessment, risk management, and then yung monitoring and review, nakalagay po siya sa Excel file, ma'am. Ang laki po kasi niya eh. Pero
so ibibigay mo rin yung Excel file mamaya sa mga...
Yes, ma'am. So all they have to do is review if the ones that we have written are applicable sa kanila. If not, they could just cross out and then do their own or add their own, depending po sa kanilang situation.
Father Jeff, pwede ba naman na dun sa file na ipapadala mo, pwede bang ilagay daw ang email address mo kung may mga questions sila? Sabi ni Monica Navarro. May fans ka na, Father. Baka may fan
no, no problem po, ma'am. Kung makakatulong po tayo sa mga schools, why not po?
So ilagay na lang po natin dun sa material nyo, yung
yes,
email address nyo para
yes,
pag may question sila. Okay. Kasi ikaw na yung expert na tinatanong nila. Sabi mo nga, magtanong. Diba?
I just want to share what I learned, ma'am.
Father, ito, tinatanong ni Adelwisa Saclolo, can we include our PTA president and alumni president in the risk assessment planning? Or talagang dapat lang daw within the school?
Maganda rin po yun, no? Sa include sila because I'm sure they have their own insights, no? From their perspective ng alumni, based on their experience, and yung parents din po, based on their experience, I'm sure they could see something which we might not be able to see. No? So like,
Yeah.
for example, in yung ating concern sa possible delay in the delivery of learning materials or in our requirements, let's also hear from them, no? So that
Yeah.
from their perspective, they would say perhaps, no? Perhaps as I mentioned earlier, yung ibang mga magulang sasabihin nila, hindi po lahat ng bata may magulang. No? So at least yung insight na yon, o may magulang na kasama sa bahay, no? Or may adult who could supervise and help them in their
At
studies.
kung may
no?
adult man, nagtatrabaho din sila,
Yes,
nag-work
ma'am.
from home din sila.
Sabi ko nga ngayon, parang ang bigat din ng bahay ngayon. Kasi yung burden, they have to they have to work and then they have to help their kids. No? Talaga, this is really very difficult. So we have to listen sa concerns po nila. Kanina din po, I think I mentioned, yung ating learning materials should be designed after consulting din po sa mga stakeholders like the parents and perhaps some alumni.
That's important. The learning materials should be designed after consultation with parents. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi ma'am, there's a wealth of ideas po na sila lang maaari nakakakita na they could share to us. No? Mas maraming involved, mas mainam po. But that doesn't mean lahat ay involved. No? Yung mga representatives lang po natin to kasi para hindi masyado siya na magulo. At least from the perspective of like sa health, sa alumni, or sa parents, or even benefactors, or the parish priest, kung parochial school.
Let's cover all our bases. Very important.
Yes,
very important to cover all our bases. Father, you mentioned something about consulting the parents, no? Yung mga ibang parents, ang mga opinion nila na parang, bakit pa namin i-enroll ang aming mga anak sa school na yan kung homeschooling lang? Then why can't we just go to an institution of homeschooling? Ano masasabi mo dito, Father?
Maganda nga po, ma'am, din yung tanong na yan. Bakit ba i-enroll pa namin? Pero maganda rin po yung tanong na, bakit nga po hindi nyo i-enroll? Kasi,
oo nga.
ma'am, sinong gagawa ng learning materials? Sinong mag-guide? Tsaka yung continuity po noon. Kasi students na yan before So alam na natin, kabisado na natin sila. It will be extremely difficult if you do not enroll your kids. No? If you do it on your own, mahihirapan po tayo dyan. Sanay na sa school, ang learning materials ay base din sa, remember the learning materials po ay designed according dun sa yung comprehensive plan ng school po yan. So ano na yung mga core competencies na dinadagdag natin, base yan sa mga nauna na nakuha po ng mga bata.
Estudyante
So
sa atin.
I think you should also ask the question, why not? And why not enroll?
Oo nga. Speaking of yung competitions, no, sa kung saan i-enroll yung mga estudyante, merong isang nagiging unique situation ngayon, Father. No, I heard this from our professor sa aming PhD. Yung may mga schools daw, since they will not go face-to-face, they will go pure online learning. Some of the prestigious schools, mas gusto na lang i-enroll doon yung mga anak nila kasi gusto nila magkaroon ng certificate from a prestigious school na wala sa province nila. Diba? So how do you mitigate this kind of, how do you get back your students para mag-enroll sa inyo?
Narinig ko na rin po yan, ma'am. They were asking, why not take the opportunity to transfer at least for one, para makaranas din po sila. I think that is always an option, no? But the question is, yun bang o yung klase ng tinuturo doon ay sanay na yung ating, o yung mga anak ng mga bata. Kasi, remember, yung learning materials po natin, mga Catholic schools, ay specifically designed as part of the learning continuity plan. That means, may past lessons na yan na dinugtong lang po ito. Hindi po siya kamukhang-kamukha sa ibang mga schools, no? So baka you might find it difficult, bandang huli babalik din po iyan sa ating mga schools, no? But again, malaya naman po ang mga magulang doon sa decision na yan kasi we cannot hold them and tell them they should not do that.
Kaya importante talaga yung marketing arm natin,
Yes,
Father?
ma'am.
Social media, natin, content.
Yes, ma'am, ano din po, part ng atin pong marketing po natin is yung presence natin should be constant sa social media kasi most of our students and families, or many of them, ay may presence po sa online. When we post our plans, konti-konti, it builds confidence doon po sa
Na
mga
ready
magulang at
tayo,
mga
no?
yes ma'am, no? Wag natin silang biglain na parang sa bandang huli basta ready kami, no? Hindi, pero
So,
unti-unti
dapat
po siya.
konti-konti.
Yes ma'am.
Konti-konti.
Hindi rin po pwedeng sabay-sabay because baka magkaroon ng overload. Ang hirap
Overload.
ang intindihin po siya, no?
Overwhelm sila.
So make sure po, make sure we have transparency po. So yung mga plano natin ay binibigay natin sa kanila, binabato unti-unti. Sila nabibuild yung confidence nila and they would say, my school is ready naman pala. Kasi initially they would think what would happen na. Pero if we feed them with the correct information or data, mas na-appreciate po nila ito and pag confident sila, they could even invite others and they would tell their friends, sa school namin ready na, ang ganda pa ng mga plans po namin. So that's one way of marketing po.
Kasi anxious na sila no? Ano ba mangyayari?
Yes,
di ba? Bakit wala kami natatanggap na communication? Kaya tama yung sabi mo kanina, let the class advisors of the previous school year start contacting the students, di ba? Kasi that's very important. Father, ito, from Jeanette Tiangco, what do we do with unsettled school fees? Kasi wala rin ngang pera, yung mga Hindi ba muna namin ipapa-enroll ang mga estudyante pag may unsettled fees? Ano po how do you mitigate this?
I think, again, I think you should consult your accountant po and your lawyer. Kasi baka mamaya, we make a decision and then say, pag hindi kayo nakasettle, we cannot allow you to enroll, no? Baka po may mga legal implications po ito. So again, wag po tayo mag-decide on our own. We should consult. I'm not in the best position to explain that po. Better ask po a lawyer or an accountant po para malaman din natin dun sa finance natin, kaya pa ba natin o hindi na. So we are left with no choice kundi singilin po sila.
Okay po. Ito po, again from Ms. Digna Delfino. Father, do you have a suggestion on how to recreate the faculty and classrooms? The faculty has to be moved into 1 to 2 meters apart arrangement. No? What should be done to be able to secure their health inside the school as well? Or do you just advise teach from home? Ano po ba ang natin dyan?
Dalawa po. Yung una, ma'am, I'd like to say, you maximize other halls or classrooms or bigger halls or offices sa classroom sa school. Since it is required po may social distancing. So, wag ipwersa. Since we will have a lot of available facilities, why not maximize so that we could at least be compliant to the requirements. No? Pangalawa, kung you were asking, Ma'am Digna was asking kung paano mas mainam ba to teach from home and teachers or hindi. I guess it depends on the saan comfortable tsaka less ang restrictions pag tuturo po ng teacher. No? Pwede po sa bahay kung malakas ang internet, pero like us, may mga teachers kami na may ng internet nila, so well, may mga ibang options po doon. I think wala pa tayong standards sa ganoon. Case-to-case basis po, depending on the situation po. Tsaka ma'am, sabi din nila, I think I read somewhere, pag daw lagi naman nag-work from home, naging stressful din daw sa bahay. I think may psychological impact din po.
Napapansin mo lahat ng bagay.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of
go ahead pa.
Speaking of that, there was yung isa sa mga situation na nakita dito, yung low, not very conducive learning environment for students. No? How do you mitigate those things? Yung mga, the home not being conducive to learning kasi ang daming distractors. Whether it be positive or negative distractors, yung may mga pets silang nilalaro, nag-aaral sila, tapos dadating yung mga aso nila, or masyadong masikip sa bahay. Paano po ba, Father, how do we make it more conducive? How do we mitigate the problem of...
Well, I was imagining those things po, ma'am, before. Parang nightmare yan sa atin. It's so difficult to monitor our students kung nag-aaral ba talaga sila at saka conducive ba yung kanilang situation. I think it's very difficult considering na hindi naman talaga most houses are not designed to accommodate yung ganitong arrangement po natin that some of the kids would be studying at home. No? So, at the end of the day, I think we would really have to trust yung parents po. We have no choice but to trust them that they could come up with a good arrangement. No? Even sa pagdisiplina po ng bata, ma'am, I think yung parents ngayon masasabi nila, it's so difficult pala na i-disiplina. Kasi di ba sa schools minsan, nakikita ang gulo-gulo ng mga bata. Tapos minsan pag napagalitan sila, tinawag yung magulang, some parents could not believe that, my kids could not do that. No? Or my son or my daughter could not do that. No?
So makikita na nila ngayon.
Yes, so makikita nila po. Na talaga palang ganoon, nakikilala po nila. At saka sila mismo yung magdi-design or mag-arrange doon sa kanila, anong oras ba dapat, saang lugar. And then, sabi ko nga po kanina, we should, when we ask for requirements, we should be very, very considerate of the situation na hindi lahat ng bahay ay merong space na makapagtatahimik at makapag-aaral mabuti yung mga bata. So at least for this period sana, baka we could make a less difficult learning requirement para po sa mga bata. Kasi wala po tayong standard arrangement sa mga bahay. Yung alam nating bahay ay different sa mga
hindi pwede yung 40 minutes per subject.
Yes,
kagaya
ma'am.
sa...
Tama po, ma'am, yun. Iba po, baka yung iba, it will take them, pwedeng 20 minutes, pero pwede naman 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. So, depende din po yun sa mga estudyante. Again, I could only, sympathize with our teachers. It will be extremely difficult. Kaya po kailangan maging mas handa tayo at mas matibay tayo because yung patience natin will be tested. But don't worry, no? Hindi naman po ito permanente. So
the parents become the principal, the faculty, the discipline coordinator.
Yes,
kaya dapat, alam natin yan.
Yes, ma'am. It's a good opportunity, ma'am, na makilala po lalo ng mga magulang yung kanilang mga bata. It's parang bonding opportunity.
That's another way to look at it. No? Yes, maganda yung mga ganyang ito, Father, learn ito from Arlene Ritual. Do the learning materials, are the learning materials shouldered by the teachers? Hindi naman yata, no? Meron tayong kinokollect na funds for that, I believe, no?
Yes, so may budget po doon.
Ito, Father. From Amelia Ginko, is there a situation where you can allow face-to-face classes pero sobrang limited number of students?
Kanina po, ma'am. Hello. Ayan.
Yes.
Kanina po, napanood ko kasi, at least ito sa Nueva Ecija, kami po ngayon ay nasa MGCQ na. Sa mga guidelines doon, parang may nakita ako na parang i-allow yung sa mga higher HEI. Pero limited social distancing, pero face-to-face po yata. I'm not so sure how accurate that is, no? But it will be good to check kasi kanina ko lang po siya nabasa dahil excited kami dito sa nabisihan na maging MGCQ na kami. So that is a possibility.
MGCQ pa rin.
Kaya nga, ma'am, I think we should be prepared. May plan B din tayo. Kasi mahirap magsabi na, okay, for this whole school year, 2020-2021, definitely from beginning to end, it will be a distant learning. What if in the coming months, may ma-discover na o maging available na yung vaccine or the situation would improve like in other countries like New Zealand, no? May 0 case na sila. So what if by December or January ay ganun na? So are we going to still continue yung initial plan natin? So my suggestion is, I think we should prepare for a plan B. Na? Kaya nga po pati yung sa mga sinisingil natin, I think we should show them kung online or distant learning, ito lang yung mga babayaran na items. But just in case lang naman po, mag-improve ang situation and we're allowed to open and then we welcome them back, syempre may adjustment na po siya sa fees. So they would not be surprised po. They would not complain and say, dati ganito lang sinisigil niya sa amin, pinapasok niyo na kami, na doble na. At least they would understand early on po, when they involve.
But Father, can they opt to do distance learning? So kunwari, pwede nang bumalik, 'di ba? Pero sabihin ng parents when I enrolled my child, you told me that it was going to be distance learning. Can I choose to stay Pwede
It
kaya
dep-
yon na parang mixed, may mga students na pumapasok, may mga students na
Ma'am, I
distance?
think it depends on the plan or the policy of each school, no? But
So that has
I,
to
I
be made clear.
yes, ma'am. But I suggest to accommodate both. So kung
Mm.
sakali naman, bumalik na may physical face-to-face, and then let's welcome them. But those who would choose, especially if they're very conservative or talagang medyo maingat
Yeah.
sila po, and they would say, ano, until zero na sa buong Pilipinas, kahit nag-improve tayo, I
Oo.
will not send my kids to school.
My
I think we
kids,
should
yeah.
also be ready to accommodate them. Sayang din po
Yeah,
yun, ma'am.
siguro dapat may pinipirmahan tayo, no, sa start ng school year. Kasi
Yes,
may
ma'am.
mga bata rin na high risk yung mga masakitin, 'di
Yes,
ba?
tama po, ma'am. We should
Ito,
be
Father,
very
Oo.
we should be very considerate din po sa situation and yung decisions po ng mga parents.
Okay. Ito, Father, maraming nagtatanong nito, no? And this is from Christine Gonzalez. What can you suggest for private school teachers who will work from home but do not have enough budget to buy their own laptop and to subscribe to a Wi-Fi na maganda? Is it going to be the teachers who will spend for this, or should the school spend for this also, since it's part
I,
of the instruction?
I think mayroong budget. I don't know kung all private schools ay ganito rin, no? Sa public
Mm.
schools kasi po, di ba may budget sila, binibigay sa teachers for chalk, yung mga ganun.
Mm.
So, meron din minsan transportation na binibigay na allowance. Since they'll be working sa bahay po nila, you might as well convert these allowances into internet allowance. As to the gadgets po, ma'am, I don't know. I think they should ask the school directors po
The
kung I'm
administrator.
sure the administrators will do something about it. No? Hindi
Ah.
naman, I think it would be a little bit irresponsible if they would say, bahala kayo sa buhay nyo. I think that will be part of the comprehensive plan po ng mga schools to provide or at least make an arrangement on how teachers could teach from home.
Yeah, may iba kasi, di ba, they either lend the school laptop or parang may loan for laptops. Parang may
Yes,
mga
ma'am.
arrangement na gano'n, na
May
salary
ganun po, ma'am.
deduction na lang.
Or they could
Diba?
borrow, ma'am, and then depending on the schedule, baka kung
Kasi ang
magkakapit-bahay.
laboratory naman, wala rin.
Yes,
Ang
ma'am.
computer lab, di ba? Ito po, from Amelia Ginko. Paano naman po ang baking class? How do we deal with that? And yung mga subjects na may laboratory.
Sa ibang ma'am, sa ibang schools, ang ginagawa ng arrangement is hindi muna nila itinuturo o ni-require yung subjects na yan. Parang they arrange their subjects in such a way na pwede palagi na ang learning ay sa bahay. Because if the subjects would require yung actual po na laboratory work, like siguro sa physics or chemistry or TLE, baka po pwede yan i-offer. I don't know po yung implication po na ito sa DepEd or sa CHED. But baka pwedeng i-offer siya sa huli, just in case mag-improve ang situation, or next school year, pagka mas okay na. O baka pwedeng i-advance sa ibang subject para hindi mapuno yung mga susunod na school year.
Okay. Ito, Father, meron kang sinabi kasi kanina, no, na parang we could, pag low na talaga yung funds, we could do the no work, no pay arrangement, no?
Yes, ma'am.
But actually, isa sa mga parang arguments there is, parang we are a Catholic school. Parang nasa naman dyan yung compassion, di ba? Parang ang nila doon we have to look to Jesus as the example. So, how do we how do we reconcile this? Our Catholic spirituality and identity versus the what is legal. Kasi parang sinasabi natin, yeah, it's legal naman, no work, no pay. We're not violating anything. But what about our Catholic identity and mission, di ba?
If you notice po, doon sa contingency plans na enumerate ko, nasa baba po siya. Nasa baba siya. Because if the school, especially kung may system sila, whether religious or diocesan schools, they could borrow money from other schools. No? And then kung wala ring available sa ibang schools, baka, I don't know, yung superintendent po sa office nun, or sa religious congregation, they could borrow, or sa diocese, no? If the diocese could provide, no? Kaya yung work from home, while it is legal, dapat nasa bandang huling-huli na yan. The point here, ma'am, is we also have to realize and understand that the school has to survive.
Yeah.
Pag binigay naman sa ating lahat po ito, at hindi tayo nag-resort sa mga ganito, that's why I said this is a very painful decision for the schools. Just make sure ibigay natin more than what is required by the law. Just in case, sabi ng law, ganito lang, baka pwedeng mas taasan pa sila and assist natin sila to find employment po sa other institutions. No? I am not recommending this as our first
contingency.
Yes, ma'am. Explore all possibilities. Explore all possibilities hanggang dun sa dulong-dulo. Kung magsasara na yung school and they might not have any choice, baka it might be very, very painful, but do it in the most humane and Christian way. That's why we have to give them more than what is required, and then we assist them na makakita rin po sila ng mga employment po. One downside po nito, ma'am, so we have to be very careful then is, if we lose them and then mag-normalize ang situation, wala na sila.
Lose them forever.
Yes, ma'am. We will not be able to hire them again kung sila ay na-hire na ng ibang mga offices or schools or establishments. No? So, kailangan talaga po, ma'am, na timbangin. Ang point lang dito is kung talagang wala na. Sobrang wala na. Kaysa magsara din ang school, kasi pag nagsara ang school, ma'am, lahat, ma'am, ng madadamage na. Lahat ng stakeholders would be affected. I'm not saying we should sacrifice them. We should, by all means, we have to look for other ways or for other means to sustain the operation.
Mm-mm. Ito, Father, may question dito, but maybe this is not really for you, no? Where are there programs that CEAP have, no, to assist small member schools? There's news, kasi we were talking about the closing, no? There's news saying that many small private schools have been closing or losing teachers and students to the public schools. Do we have any program? So I already asked our president, tinext ko siya kanina, no? We actually did, that was the reason why we did the school continuity planning and to help them transition. And one of the programs that we put in was the CEAP Enrollment Assistance Portal, kasi not all schools can afford to have an online enrollment system. So yun, meron po tayong nilagay na enrollment portal na online, and there's a subsidy that goes to this through the Kapatirang Kamagong help also from for small schools, no? But there are actually no programs yet to prevent yung closure talaga ng schools, no? Since that is really management decision. But also, just to take note, no, that we have also a CEAP along with its partners, the COCOPEA, we have been advocating for greater government support to private education. So we are really hoping that, you know, that the government can actually support us also, kasi affected rin naman tayo dito sa mga nangyayaring ito, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. May I say something about that po, no?
Yes po.
I'm happy, no? I'm not part of the SEA, but I'd like to appreciate din yung ginagawa ng SEA po. They make some, they have plans to support small schools, and then they approach or request the government for assistance as one. Yeah. So one way of showing our support is by posting din kung may mga announcements or may mga halimbawa official statements ng ating schools, especially Catholic schools or private schools.
We can share it.
Yes, ma'am. So that pag maraming nakakabasa niyan, especially our representatives or lawmakers or senators, if they see that, sabihin, talagang ang kailangan. Kasi kung widespread ang magsasalita or mag-express, I think mas mapapakinggan po tayo. And I think SAYAP is doing very well pagdating po dyan sa pagtulong po na yan sa mga schools.
Actually, yun yung isa sa mga mission natin, no? Unity of action, no? Yes. That when we do something, we do it for the entire organization, yes, no? 1,525 member schools. And actually, when we do our advocacies, we are hoping that the schools also approach their congressmen, diba, their legislators, dun sa kanilang mga local officials para to push forth also our own advocacies, kasi stronger yung voice natin, ano, mas malakas yung boses natin pag sama-sama natin itong ginawa. no?
I guess ma'am, hindi lang financial ang itutulong ng tinutulong ng SEAT, no.
Oo.
I think by coming up with the uniform programs or kung kanito po ng webinar, share po ito for free sa lahat ng mga members. I think that's also a big help din po sa kanila. And I think they'll be very appreciative of this.
Yes, because we are listening to you, no? Our CAP member schools, we heard you when you needed help for school continuity planning. Tapos itong risk management and assessment, we have a compilation of government issuances, no, for mga legal issues. So you can really get all these materials sa ating cap.org.ph sa website natin, ano? And this is just the first leg, actually, Father Jeff, of our webinars, no? We will have the second leg. Ito naman yung module making, yung mga ganon. Safety and security in schools, leadership and governance in the time of COVID. No? So please do check out continuously our Facebook page so that you will know kung kailan namin isa-schedule yung second leg of the webinars. It's coming soon. Siguro within 1 to 2 weeks, we will go on air again regarding this. So Father Jeff, we're almost at the end of our question and answer period, maybe as a way of synthesis, no? Parang ganon. Ano yung pinaka-advice na maibibigay mo sa ating mga educators during this time, particularly on risk management and assessment? Alam ko marami ka nang nasabi, pero ano yung gusto mo pang iparating sa kanila? Closing message?
We should be prepared for a lot of should I say uncertainties or eventualities. No? A lot of things could happen, no? Because these times are very uncertain. No? So one way of preparing that is to come up with contingency plans. No? We cannot go on with our school year without backup plans because things will not be perfect. And I am so sure of that. No? Some things could go wrong. So we have to be very prepared. No? And while these are difficult and trying and uncertain times, these should also be exciting times. No? Huwag tayo masyado ma-depress dito. You know, sabi ng mga Chinese, no, a crisis is always an opportunity for growth. No? Hindi tayo dapat i-pull down na ito. Crisis should bring out the best in each one of us. So let's hope and pray that we shall come out of this crisis as better schools and more importantly, as better persons.
Wow. Ito, Father Jeffy, babasahin ko lang yung isang affirmation from Glenda Subico from Academia de San Isidro Labrador in Cebu. Thank you very much for this very enlightening and comprehensive webinar. Your platform is very clear and concise. The presentation of the topics well organized. The webinar design is simple yet elegant. Father Alarilla is very much prepared and his voice is well modulated. My fan ka na, Father. That's very easy to understand. Lots on point and relevant issues were tackled. More power to you and to the CEAP family.
Thank you, thank you.
And there
thank
you have it, no? On that note, thank you, Father Jeff. Sana this is not the last, no? Baka pwede ka pa namin imbitahin ulit for future webinars. Thank you for this very enlightening talk on risk assessment and management of Catholic schools during these uncertain times of COVID-19. Okay, so that concludes our webinar for today. We would like to inform you again that you can start evaluating this webinar. I think the link has been posted on the comments section. The evaluation link is open until 2 o'clock in the afternoon today. No? So hanggang 2 o'clock lang po. And then we will email to you your certificate of attendance within the next 2 days. So thank you very much. Again, please continue to check our Facebook page in the next days for the second leg of our webinars. This has been Marianne Cruz, the Deputy Executive Director of CAP, saying thank you and good morning to all.